English translation. 522nd contact Saturday, the 2nd of July, 2011, 15:21 hours.
Today, I do not have much time because I am busy with various things that are inevitable. For this reason, I am also late for the correction work.
That was not too bad. But if you are short of time, I would like to ask you a question right away. Again and again, there are articles and explanations, etc. on television about the Roswell case and about Area 51, and it is always vehemently denied that there has ever been a Roswell case concerning an extraterrestrial flying object. Such broadcasts also include alleged eyewitnesses of a military nature who deny and ridicule everything, and always claim that it was a test balloon of a company called Mogul. Most of the presenters of such TV programs are singing the same tune.
We have talked about this several times in all the years since 1975, so we should not repeat this story.
What you say is probably correct, but I think it could still be useful if you say something about the Roswell case and Area 51 again. It is also the case that I am asked from time to time whether the official claims are true or not, also regarding the alleged first moon landing of the U.S. Americans in 1969.
Then I will, as an exception, once again explain a few things. The Roswell case is based on true events, but you know that. However, the flying apparatus that crashed at that time was not controlled by human life forms, but by bioorganic androids. However, the secret files created at the time about this incident were kept secret from the public and even from the entire government, and were made to disappear by being kept in a very safe place to which only a few people have access. So there is little chance that the real truth will ever really come out, and consequently there will probably never be any education of the USA government and the public, either in the USA or worldwide. The truth is that the rulers in the USA were not informed about the real events. But everything remained with the military intelligence and the FBI, as well as with other U.S. intelligence services, such as the CIA. The Mogul lie stories about the Roswell case are also based on intelligence, as is the story based on lies about the alleged first manned U.S.-American moon landing on the 20th of July, 1969, with the Apollo 11 space capsule. And as far as the debris from the crash of the extraterrestrial flying apparatus near Roswell is concerned, it is to be said that all accessible debris was collected by members of the U.S. Air Force and brought to Patterson and then to Area 51. Despite thorough examination of all the debris, the technicians were not able to make much use of it because only a few things were understood and could be put to little use. Nevertheless, it is a fact that top-secret flying apparatus is being created and tested in Area 51, not only in the area of that base, but also in other areas and even worldwide. But this is also true of other states that work on and test secret flying apparatus, which are then referred to by uninitiated populations as UFOs, and even as extraterrestrial flying objects. And it is precisely this fact that is used by all the secret bases where futuristic flying apparatuses are built, Area 51 in particular, to keep their secret products relating to all kinds of flying objects and aircraft from becoming public knowledge. The secret services involved have been stirring up the UFO hype for many decades and are doing everything they can to make people observing such flying apparatus believe that they are extraterrestrial flying objects, which are then generally called UFOs. This is also a reason for the paradox that, especially in the USA, those in charge of military and Air Force intelligence and other intelligence agencies involved in the case are denying that an extraterrestrial flying apparatus has crashed, as happened in Roswell. Of course, this also vehemently denies the secret research and machinations that are being carried out in Area 51, as well as the constructions of secret flying apparatus made there. And this did not only happen during the Cold War period, but it also applies equally to the present day. Thus, the belief of the population in the multiple existence of extraterrestrial UFOs continues to be fueled, The fact is, as we informed you decades ago in silence, that the USA knew how to get hold of Soviet MiG fighters, the technology of which the aircraft designers at Area 51 had acquired and made great use of, but also how they could make use of certain small items from the crashed Roswell flying object, which in reality was of very little importance. What is happening today in Area 51 is as secret as it has always been, and what is being created there refers to a technology that is still so futuristic for the Earth's population today that when the flying apparatus becomes public knowledge, it will in turn be classified as extraterrestrial technology, although it is purely of Earth humans' achievements. That, dear friend, is what I had to explain in answer to your question. At the same time, I hope that in future there will be no need to talk about these matters anymore, because everything that is necessary has really been made clear.
Thanks, and I think that your last words are also in my mind. The lies about Roswell and the alleged first moon landing will probably go on forever. But tell me, if I may openly ask, what is it all about the clouds on the sun? Recently I read something about it in a magazine, so I think that I do not have to keep silent about it any longer, because the fact of such sun clouds is now known.
That is indeed so.
Well then, your daughter Sim Yase let me know during a sightseeing flight in the SOL system in the 1970s that there are cloud formations on the sun as well, so I also wanted to see them. Sim Yase then of course fulfilled my wish, and I discovered that the solar clouds have gigantic dimensions, up to 30 or even 70 times the size of the Earth. These clouds consist of hot matter and have temperatures of over 5,000 degrees Celsius. My question now is whether these cloud formations on the sun also influence their surface activity and the deeper solar spheres or not.
There are indeed very strong influences in this respect, because they determine the movements of the deeper spheres, as is also the case on all cloud-bearing planets, on which certain climatic movements, weather conditions, and surface changes result from the clouds and their interrelationships.
Your daughter told me that hot clouds of matter on all sun formations are absolutely natural phenomena.
That is correct.
Good, and thanks. Then I would like to make use of your knowledge as a scientist, brain researcher, neurologist and psychologist, etc., and ask you about something that pertains to the brain structure of human beings, which indeed plays a very decisive role in regards to whether the human willingly learns or not. I have also read something about that in a journal, but as usual, everything was described in a very banal and meaningless manner. But since this matter indeed interests me, thereby I'm thinking about the learning and studying of the spiritual teaching, the perception of reality and its truth, as well as the understanding and following of it, as also in regard to the creational natural laws and recommendations and their implementation. Since I have been fulfilling my mission, I have been aware that, at the present time, human beings can only make up their mind in drips and drabs, so to speak, to turn towards the spiritual teaching, the reality and its truth, and thereby also towards the creational natural laws and recommendations, to study them, accept, and to follow them. Most human beings hesitate, are indecisive, cannot motivate themselves for it, and summon up neither energy nor a will for it. Many are simply indifferent to the whole matter, while many others are caught in the faith of the crazy religions and sects and cannot free themselves from it. For me, the thing is clear, that only the human beings who consciously seek the effective truth can build up a decisive energy, a will and motivation, in order to actually turn to the truth, as this is given through the teaching of the truth, teaching of the spirit, teaching of the life, in which also the creational natural laws and recommendations are made clear. In my opinion, there exists a malfunction in the brain structure of those human beings who devote themselves to faith and religions, sects and confused ideologies, which denies the brain to demand success and truth, to develop an interest, a motivation, and a will, to act in relation to the recognition of reality and its truth, and to learn these values, if I may say so. If you could say something about that which would be understandable even for laymen like me, and of course also for others who are interested.
What you say hits precisely at the core of the problem because, indeed, the brain structure plays a very important role at that, as it determines the interest as well as the motivation, the willpower, and all the necessary energy in order to, for example, implement such a motivation. Certain regions of the brain and the nerves are activated through the release of certain messenger substances. And the more of these substances arrive into the relevant brain regions and nerves, the more the interests, the motivation, the willpower, and the necessary energy increase. Thereby, the predispositions, that is, the talents, play an important role, as well as the development of the ability to motivate oneself by creating an interest. Very many human beings are not able to do so because they are adrift in a religious, sectarian, or some false ideological belief, from which they cannot create their own profound interest for the reality and the truth, but rather let themselves be adrift in the delusion of their faith through the events and situations of life. This inevitably leads to discouragement and basically to failure, that is, to not being able to build up a willpower and the necessary energy. Many factors and forces are thereby dependent on the subconsciousness and all the influential forms of the unconsciousness, because they are fighting in the brain for letting their own energies come into effect and for shutting off all the other ones. Thus, the various energies and their forces are constantly wrestling with each other in the brain, such as rage and anger, hatred, jealousy, revenge, retaliation, boredom, stress, composure, relaxation, curiosity, lenience, carelessness, tension, relaxed state, and strain, etc. The motivational system is being driven or compromised by all these things. If an impairment takes place, then the human being only does that which offers the least resistance, such as the delusion of faith, which inhibits the urge for the actual reality and its truth. The way that also offers the least resistance in relation to learning and studying is where only that is being learned and studied, what is absolutely necessary and unavoidable. That alone is already determined by a prevailing discouragement, which follows that an active and valuable motivation and a determinative willpower to implement the motivation are being nipped in the bud. If the willingness for motivation of the Earth humans is observed, then this can only be found in a sparse amount, because in large measure it occurs only in times of hardship and danger when it comes to preserving one's own life and protecting it. And this lack of willingness for motivation also leads to the fact that the great mass of the Earth humans can neither find a true state of joy nor a real satisfaction, like also no consciousness and feeling-based happiness. The majority of humankind of Earth bring forth a strong motivation only in order to pursue amusement, to gather wealth, to live in splendor and joys, to exercise Gewalt, war and injustice, to hang on to religious, sectarian and ideological forms of beliefs, to put themselves in the foreground, to be imperious and selfish, without empathy, feelings for others, and to be indifferent towards fellow human beings and the lives of all creatures and of nature. If the Earth humans want to be successful in their life, then they must form their brain structures in such a manner that decisive motivations arise for the widest variety of things. So also in relation to the clear perception of the reality and its truth, as well as the creational natural laws and recommendations, their understanding, acceptance, following, and fulfillment. Each motivation can only come about if it is successful to induce the brain for it. But right there is the actual problem of the Earth humans. Because in regard to the important life and evolutionary values, their thoughts and feelings fall into deep abysses due to indifference, consequently, no interest can be created for them. What is done is senselessly wasting away life, in which no clear intellect and no clear rationality for the true values of life and evolution take place, because in regard to this, it is exactly as you said. Thus, it is indeed so, that in those Earth humans who are trapped by a belief faith, be it ideological, Sectarian or religiously, according to a major religion, a malfunction in their brain structure is present that denies the brain to demand an interest in relation to the actual reality and truth. With that also the urge for a buildup of a motivation and a will, and the required energy for that are nipped in the bud. Consequently, no initiative for the development and achievement of a success comes into being. Thus, no interest can come about to consciously and honestly search for the actual reality and truth. Therefore, there is only an interest to vegetate away in terms of life, consciousness, and evolution. A motivation and a will to act in relation to the recognition of reality and the truth, and to learn to build up the true values of life and evolution, is absent in all requirements. Consequently, no motivation can arise. Only the interests that can be created, as well as a motivation that is to be created from it. And in turn, the will with great energy resulting from it decide what will be strived for, what is done, carried through, and what will be understood. But everything must be built up consciously and through a strong will, and brought to effect. And if this cannot be carried through by Earth humans, it means then that they are unmotivated and have no chance to live a true life. But that also means that they are not able to form any true development of the consciousness, as they likewise, through their own fault, fall prey to the incapability to comprehend the creational natural laws and recommendations and the incapability to implement them in their life. These kinds of Earth humans only vegetate away, without true development of consciousness and far from comprehension, compliance to, and fulfillment of the true values of life. Only lack of impetus, drive, fear, lack of interest, lack of will, and lack of motivation are their métier. Hence, they cannot have experiences of achievement that are true to life and valuable. If the Earth human wants to develop interests, motivations for this and that, as well as a determinative willpower and assertiveness, fundamentally, it is necessary for him or her that he or she comes from a point of view that everything is possible for him or her and the achievement of his or her fulfillments, and that he or she is also capable of everything. Doubt and uncertainty, anxiety, fear, disinterest, and boredom, etc. must fundamentally be switched off because they are the biggest enemies of every interest and every motivation. For the Earth human to be able to live successfully, progressively and developmentally, he or she must, for all his or her life, turn to true and good interests and maintain his or her motivations that are oriented to these. Thereby, it is important to ensure that everything is steered according to the creational natural laws and recommendations as far as possible. And everything negative is avoided where possible, because the brain does not only store all that is positive, but also the negative. For this reason, the positive is of very great importance in relation to good interests and motivations, because they determine over the true value of what should be achieved and carried out. Naturally, it speaks for itself, that thereby also the image of the personality and the character, the general behavior and a healthy intellect, a clear rationality, the already present abilities or those which are to be created, and the motive to be striven for, are of enormous importance. If the abilities do not conform to the motive, or if the matter to be striven for is falsely estimated, then it cannot work out well. Thereby, it is also important to observe that one motivation is not equal to another motivation, because depending on the matter and motive, a different motivation is needed. Hence, it is different from case to case. Also, the capacity of the ability, the joy, the percipience, understanding, acceptance, and comprehension of the motive, as well as the sense of purpose and the talent, as well as the impetus, drive, and ultimately the will, are of the greatest importance. And, if the Earth humans are missing these necessary values, especially in extensive measure through a religious, sectarian, or ideological belief, and also as the result of a comprehensive indifference, wisecrance, egoism, disharmony, unfreedom, hatred, revenge, retaliating behavior, jealousy, and all unvirtues in general. Then they do not find the way to the teaching of the truth, teaching of the Spirit, teaching of the life, and thereby also not to the creational natural laws and recommendations. Therefore, you are comprehensively right with that.
Thanks for your explanation. What strikes me, as it often does, is that you keep using phrases, terms, and words that actually fall within my language area. Somehow I find this strange, and I do not understand the reason why you do it in this way.
You have asked before, and I explained that it just happens because I like your way of speaking and therefore adopt it. Furthermore, I find it so authoritative with regard to your mission, which is why I want to use it myself. Because I have known for a long time that your way of speaking is well received by Earth humans, precisely by those who are clearly aware of their reason and understanding and who are interested in the actual reality and its truth, as well as in the laws and recommendations of creation, and who direct their interests and motivations towards perceiving, understanding, and obeying them.
Well said, dear friend.
Then this should be the end of our conversation, because my time is pressing me to pursue my duties. Goodbye, Edward. It was also a special pleasure for me today to be able to talk to you briefly.
Ptaah, that also applies to me. Farewell, take care and goodbye.